Welcome, everyone, to the 24th ever episode of the Open Throne Podcast. I'm your host, Cole Houck. Today, blessed to be joined by Rob and Tom Pope of the Sports Guyz podcast. Really excited to talk about the ACC today. How you guys feeling?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having us on last time. Talk about the SEC. This time we get to talk about our conference, the ACC. And in 2 days, we get to take you to our hometown, college town, Charlottesville, Virginia, to see Virginia NC State. It's going to be a great game in front of a sold-out crowd, so we're excited. Thanks for having us.
This is the best time of year. I got football on in the background, preseason NFL, researching the college teams. ACC is on deck, and we feel very close to the ACC as all our teams are in there, and we're very excited to get this thing rolling this weekend.
It is so cool to be able to go, especially with you guys, but be able to go to the first conference game of the season. It's going to be so much fun. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about last year and just the ACC as a whole. Last season was so weird. Like you said, you guys on a team that went 7-1, won 7 games in conference, and then there were 5 teams that went 6-2. And Duke was 7-5 in the regular season, but they were 6-2 because they lost all their games out of conference for the most part. So they ended up getting whatever tiebreaker was. I don't even remember. I don't really care to. It was kind of an atrocity looking back at it as far as optics goes for the entire conference. But the ACC as a whole, they're, for most fans, I feel like, at least ACC fans for sure, they're kind of penciled in this weird spot as far as the Power 4 conferences go, where they're clearly a step behind the Big Ten and the SEC in football, but they're kind of a half tier above the Big 12, it seems, at least probably depth-wise. And I don't know, Big 12 fans probably would disagree about that, but I feel like that's been pretty solidified for a couple years now. And I don't know if the SEC or the ACC, has got the depth to be able to compete with the SECs and the Big Tens of the world. I mean, I feel like they need to start up their NIL to be able to compete with those conferences. What do you guys think?
We have a friend named Luke who's come on our program a couple of times, good buddy of mine. He is an Iowa State fan. He knows the Big 12 really well, and he argues with me all the time about the Big 12 being the number 3 conference, ACC being the 4th. He still respects the ACC, but he really believes, and he has a lot of good backing behind it, that he thinks the Big 12 is a better conference. He will come on the podcast sometime this year, and we'll chat with him about it. But my feeling is ACC is just a slight notch above, partially because they have a lot more money than the Big 12
They have
does.
more money.
Mm-hmm. So this one, I actually had to add an extra tier from the last episode because there's just a little bit more going on. Like there's so many top teams in SEC that have a chance to make the playoffs, whereas the ACC has a ton of really solid teams that are going to go 9-3 or 8-4. I actually have 7 teams here that are predicted to be 9-3 or 8-4. But a lot of those teams are not going to be in the same realm as the 7-5, 8-4 teams like your A&Ms and your Tennessees, Missouris of the SEC. So I had to break another one down here. I have the King of the Hill, same as last time. I also only have one team in there. It's very obvious, I believe, who it is. Then we have 3 teams who are fighting for the ACC championship game. They're all going 9-3 and 7-2. I have 4 teams going 8-4, and they're either going 6-3 in conference or 5-4 in the conference. And then I have 3 teams who I said who are bowl eligible going 6-6. I have 4 more teams who are not quite bowl eligible, and a couple of these teams are better than their record shows, but they're going to finish 5-7 because of weird scheduling and out of conference games. And then 2 more, bottom feeder doormats of the conference, however you want to describe it, which we'll go, barely touch on towards the end. But yeah, first off, I have Miami. I mean, there's no world where anybody else is supposed to be the top of this conference, right? It's definitely Miami and then everybody else.
I think they're either going 12-0 or 11-1. I personally think they will drop at least one. I don't believe in the 12-0, but I think they'll go 11-1. They will go to Charlotte to play, I think, SMU. I think SMU is clearly the second best. They may play a 3rd or 4th place team because of some kind of weird tiebreaker rules like we talked about. But I think there's no question they're going to the playoff this year, and it's not going to be a controversial thing.
I think they're obviously the best team in the ACC with good reason. I think they have a solid coaching team that's completely intact. Not only is Mario Cristobal an awesome recruiter with the transfer portal and also high school recruits, he played at Miami. He's an alumnus who cares. He's bought in, 100% bought in. He's not looking for a paycheck to leave, like some of these SEC coaches seem like. And then he has his offensive coordinator. Shannon Dawson and defense coordinator Corey Heatherman. Those are all in place still. He's got a lot of 12 returning starters, which is pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Last year, 13-3, they were fantastic. They were dominant on defense. And then this year, the big question mark is the offensive line. Even though they lost Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, they have a lot of good pieces back in place. They got some really good transfers in to fill those spots. They lost 4 starting linemen. However, they have 4 5-star linemen coming in, which is nice. And they have their head coach was a lineman at Miami, and that's his specialty. So I really think they have Jackson Cantwell, the #1 tackle recruit in the country, coming. So I think they're just going to reload at line. So there's really not a question there. And then they have, Cooper Barcade is a wide receiver coming in from Duke, who was a teammate of Darian Mensah. So they have a really special connection. So they're going to be incredibly quick to get that going. And then they have Malachi Tony. So they're really solid, really good team. Their defense is loaded, and they're going to be able to replace those 2 generational players a lot more easily than you might think. A lot of teams would melt down after losing Mesidor and
I mean, first of
Bain.
all, Malachi Tony is the most dynamic weapon in the entire country. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's the best slot receiver I've seen in 5 to 10 years. Listen to this. This is crazy, Cole. They have 19 5-star players on their roster. 19.
Wow.
SMU has 7. Virginia has 2. So it's like they're playing a different game. They're playing basically with an NFL roster, essentially. They've got 7 5-stars coming in from high school next year in 2027. So what Cristobal has created is what Nick Saban used to have. He has basically a football factory, and he's just bringing in 5-stars every year. It's going to be really hard to compete with that.
Yeah, their skill position talent is amazing. Obviously, they brought in Darian Mensah from Duke. Talked a lot about him. He's going to put up a lot of numbers with these guys. But they also, like you said, have Mark Fletcher as a running back. That's going to be a ton of fun to watch. He was so good, especially in the playoffs last year.
He was so good.
Yeah. Malachi Tony returns. They brought in, like you said, Cooper Barcade as well. He had 1,100 yards with Darian Mensah at Miami last year. So he's going to step right into the system too. They did lose a lot. Like you said, they lost all 4 offensive linemen. They actually lost a lot on defensive line as well, at least talent-wise, despite you said them retaining 6 stars on each side of the ball. But they replenished a lot in the offensive line and defensive line especially. I want to shout out Damon Wilson. I found out this guy had 9 sacks from Missouri on the defensive line. I don't remember his actual position, but he's going to be a beast for this team. The linebacking core is really good still. They kept a couple guys over there. I'm not too worried about secondary. What's that?
Edge rusher.
Edge rusher. Yeah, that sounds right.
Damien
I mean, obviously
Wilson.
9 sacks plays into that. So, yeah, this Miami team, they should be good. They don't really have a whole lot of tough games either. Like, they have a game at Clemson. They have a game at Notre Dame, which that's my 1 loss. I have been going 11-1. And then after those 2, I think the next hardest game is maybe Virginia Tech at home or
Florida
Pittsburgh
State,
at home.
probably. Florida State.
Maybe Florida State. Yeah, they have a bye before that as well, and it's at home.
And actually, I think Duke is going to be a tough game because they're going to be geeked up to play those 2 players that left them.
It's also coming off the Notre Dame game. So if they lose like I expect them to, I mean, they could lose. They could let Notre Dame beat them twice, but they also could, kick the snot out of Duke being mad about the Notre Dame game.
I don't ever think Florida State's a joke game, though. Like that's a tough game. Miami should win it, but
kind of.
I think they got athletes.
Florida State will keep it close for a half, but Miami will win going away.
That's how I feel.
I think bottom line is Miami, the only game that they have a possibility of losing is Notre Dame, and I agree with Cole. I think they will lose that game. I think if they played that game, second or third last game of the year, they would win it. But I think it's going to take them a little time to gel with Mensah. So, but listen to these NIL numbers.
Yeah, but hold on. The Notre Dame game is November 7th. They'll be gelled by then.
Yeah, maybe. And it's certainly possible for them to win it, but I think if they're going to lose the game,
Notre Dame there.
If Miami's going to lose a game, it's going to be
They're
Notre Dame.
Explosive. They're very explosive. I love Notre Dame's secondary. Like,
if they win that game, they're going 12-0. So that's the
Yeah.
bottom line. That's the only game they really
I
have
just
on the
don't think
schedule.
anybody can stop Malachi Tony.
Yeah.
Do you guys know how many drops he had last year? He was targeted 109 times. How many times did he drop the ball?
I don't know.
0.
What?
0. 109 catches, 109 targets.
Wow.
I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, he's sick.
It's a lot of
He's sick.
targets too, by the way. That's like 8 targets a game almost.
You know, we were talking about the 5-star recruit thing. Well, listen to the NIL numbers. They're the only team that could compete in the SEC or the Big Ten. They have 38 million as their team roster this year. The next is Clemson at 27. Florida State's third at 26, and then Virginia's fourth at 24. So, I mean, they've got, $13, $14 million advantage over everybody else in the ACC on top of having 19
I'm just going to
five-stars.
tell you right now, though, the ACC is coming up in money.
It's coming. It's
The
coming. But
alumni have been told, if you want to be competitive and stop being laughed at, you have to do what these other
my
conferences
point
are doing.
is that their advantage this year is so significant, both in talent and in money, that it's just very difficult for anybody to beat them this year.
Hold on. I gotta stop and think about something. You said Florida State has spent $26 million in NIL, and
Yeah, so
their
you got
starting
Miami.
quarterback is going to be Ashton Daniels.
Yep, Miami's 38, Clemson's 27, Florida's 26, and Virginia's 24. So Virginia's fourth. Yeah. Virginia was actually second last year, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, they had a lot of transfers in for money.
So they're fourth this year.
You guys ready to move on to the next tier of teams?
Yeah, let's
one
go.
step below. So this is the set fight for the ACC championship. I have 3 teams that I think stand a good chance. There's a couple more next year as well that I could talk about. I could definitely see getting there, but these 3 I have all at 7-2. So however the tiebreakers end up working out, I have Louisville, SMU, and Clemson. Do you guys think those are the 3 best teams following Miami in this conference?
I like Virginia in there too. I like Virginia 7-2.
I think I need to watch Bo Pribula a couple of games before I can move them up.
Yeah.
But if he fits in nicely and they kind of gel, I love their defense. So
I was watching an analyst today. I told Rob that that all the love for Virginia this year has been on the offensive line and on the running backs, and that's where it's deserved. But
yeah,
I saw an analyst today say that actually the strength of their team this year is their defense, and it's actually their defensive line, and it's Cam Robinson. And they said that their defensive coordinator is a very hot prospect right now. He's going to end up getting a head coaching job next year, probably.
Well, say Cam Robinson is questionable. Did you see that this morning?
Yeah, I did see that. I think he's going to play.
I saw that.
He's going to play. But anyway, this defensive coordinator Virginia has, what he does is he uses the advantage of an 80-man roster versus the NFL where you have 53, and he has 9 bona fide pass rushers. And he has 5 of them were on the team last year, and they were very good last year. And he brought in 4 very, very good pass rushers this year. And what he does is he only lets them play 15 snaps a game. And he rotates them. And so what he does is he waits until the offensive line of the other team, like NC State, gets tired in the third and fourth quarter, and he unleashes these guys on them. And he has tremendous success. So I'm very excited after listening to his analysis on Virginia's defense.
Like I said, I'm holding out to see what our offense looks like because we have a lot of talented positions covered, but big question mark at wide receiver, and then we don't know what Bo Pribula is yet. I believe he's a very dynamic quarterback, but in our system, we'll see. So I'm holding back to pushing them up into that next tier. I'm going to hold them to a little lower one until we see that in action. I wouldn't be surprised if it works and they're up there, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there's some stumbling in the beginning.
Here's what I've got. I've got Miami at 11-1. It's Cal, Virginia, SMU, and
what about Virginia Tech?
Yeah, they're in this conversation somewhere.
They're a lot like Virginia where you got to wait and see, but they could be in that higher tier. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
They could win 10 games this year. I don't feel like that's that crazy to say out loud, which is, first year James Franklin, but.
Here's what I don't like. There are teams now that are bringing in 20, 30, 40 transfers and new players. I don't like that. People are saying if a team didn't bring in a bunch of transfers, they're not they're not going to be good this year for that. I think that hurts your team. It doesn't help it. I feel like it's shuffling your deck and you don't know what you're going to have. To me, the reason that's damaging is you have the guys that stay loyal to your program. They sit there and they wait their turn. And then you transfer in 4 guys in their position and they lose their starting spot. You
And they're
don't think
still waiting.
you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
think
and they
they're
were talking,
bitter? Like,
and they were saying that LSU has 40 coming in, and half of them were not in spring practice, and there's
yeah,
going to be resentment there.
it
It's going to be
creates
real resentment.
dissension and bitterness, I think, among some of the players who were there last year thinking, okay, I'm going to start next year. And nope, we brought a guy in your position. And that's going to happen occasionally. But if half your roster feels that way, I think it's bad for the locker room. I don't like a massive transfer class. It can work sometimes, but you have to get a little bit lucky with the makeup of the players and the positions that you're transferring them in.
Bottom line for me, Tier 1 is Miami. I agree with Cole. Tier 2 is Clemson, Louisville, SMU, and Virginia. I think those 4 teams are going to be in that next tier down. And then you have a Tier 3 where you have a team that could emerge. You've got Georgia Tech, NC State, Pitt, Virginia Tech, and maybe 1 or 2 others. But they're in that kind of Tier 3, in my opinion. And they could have a special season.
I'll get to this later. You are much higher on Georgia Tech than I am. I feel like they lost a ton over this last season. I
Same.
understand why you
Out
think
of
some of
that
it can
Tier
translate
3
over,
group,
but they lost a lot.
out of
They
that
lost
Tier
a
3
lot.
group, they're the ones that could drop the most. I agree.
I'm not that high on Georgia Tech. I'd rather take James Franklin with that huge shuffling of the deck. The amount of talent he's bringing in with him, it's a lot, and it's
Out of
all
that
from
Tier 3,
it's
out
all
of the
from
Tier
Penn
3
State.
group,
So they all know each other. You know what I mean? He's bringing in half his team.
out of
And
that
Like
Tier 3
they
group,
kept Brent
Georgia.
Pry. He's still there. He's defensive coordinator. Like he's
That's
under
true.
James Franklin, which
That's
he's
true.
comfortable with. Did
Yeah.
it, 5 years ago as well.
Out of that Tier 3 group, the 2 teams most likely to jump up are NC State and Virginia Tech, and the team most likely to fall is Georgia Tech. So I agree with that.
Well, I can go ahead and give you my tier below as well because you talked about a little bit about these teams here. I have all these teams going 8-4, and one of them I have is 8-3, or sorry, 6-3 in the conference. The rest I have 5-4 in the conference, and that is NC State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and Pittsburgh. That's my next tier below. But I could see, I mean, I could probably see all of these teams winning 9 games. I don't know that it'd be hard pressed
Agree.
to say that Pittsburgh can't win 9 games,
I'm
right?
not as
Neither with
high on
Virginia,
Pittsburgh.
NC State.
Yeah, I don't think Pittsburgh can. I think if they get to 8, that's a pretty darn good year. I think NC State could win 9. I think NC State could maybe even win 10 if Bailey has a really special year, which he might. I could see Virginia winning 9 or 8. And I don't think Pitt. I think Pitt wins 8 or less.
I like Pat Narduzzi quite a lot, and they were amazing last year. They were number 1 in the nation in sacks since 2019. So they've been consistently good, but they lost their defensive coordinator. That's a big problem. They have new offensive and defensive coordinators. So that's significantly it puts a big question mark. They lost a decent amount of weapons.
Let me fight for Pittsburgh here for a second. We could jump around a little bit because Pittsburgh is interesting. I realize that they lost their defensive coordinator, but I always kind of trust Pat Narduzzi on defense. I feel like he hasn't really given me a reason not to, and some of that you can obviously apply to a defensive coordinator. But their rush defense was amazing last year. Their back seven has some good transfers. They returned a couple guys I like on defense, so I don't feel like it should drop off a cliff. And their biggest problem by far was their front line. I think they had like 44 sacks, something. They gave, 44 sacks up last season. Ridiculously high number. They now have 127 combined starts in the offensive line. It's like, I think it's just behind Virginia in the ACC. So that problem should fix itself a lot. They kept Ja'Carrion Turner. He was their running back. He had 700 yards last year. They did lose their top 2 wide receivers. You guys said they lost some skill position. They definitely did.
Yeah.
So that could be an issue potentially. But don't forget, guys, they also started 2-2 last year with their quarterback Eli Holstein because he was really good the year before that. And then they put in Mason Heinschel in, and then they finished 8-5. So I have questions about the wide receivers. That's okay. I think the defense should stay around where it was. I think the pass defense is going to be better. The rush defense is going to be worse. I think they're going to be a lot better in offensive line, so not getting nearly as many sacks. I think this team has the pieces to win 8 or 9 games potentially. But
Did you
They're
see
not
where
very good against the run.
Yeah.
Their defense is not great against the run, and I don't think they're going to be able to throw very well. So they have some weaknesses that a good defensive coordinator can exploit, and I think a good offense can pound it down their throat.
Did you see where Eli Holstein went this year?
He's a backup. Is he at Syracuse now?
Nope, he's
Where's
the
he at?
backup for Bo Pribula at Virginia. So
That's
Virginia
right. I
got
knew it
both.
was in the
They got
conference.
Pribula and they got Holstein. And what they promised Holstein was that Pribula's a 1-year situation and Holstein's going to be the starter next year. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay. I didn't know about that.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
he's the
I
backup
liked
for
him 2
Virginia.
years ago, but he was kind of rough in the beginning of the first, last season.
So it was kind of interesting that Elliott already has his plan for next year as well.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about Louisville this year? They're the team that I have going to the ACC championship game in my predictions based on what I imagine tiebreakers could be, but they have plenty of questions, I feel like, too. And they're always Louisville, so they're always going to lose a game that they probably shouldn't. That's been a very consistent pattern the last couple of years as well. What do you guys think about this Cardinal team?
Well, I mean, I think they're really up and coming. Last year they had a fantastic year. They lost 3 games by 7 points total and 2 in overtime. So I mean, they were right there at the cusp of being great last year, and they had 4 INTs against Miami. So they're coming back with a very successful season, and potentially they're a lot better than even their record said. They've got probably the best running back tandem in the
Yes.
ACC.
One of the best in
It's
the country.
one of the best in the country for sure. They have 14 starters returning. That's one of the highest that we've seen. Their defense is improving. Their offense is explosive. Lincoln Keenholz came over from Ohio State, and Jeff Brom is a fantastic coach. He has 3 9-win seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he is by all standards one of the best coaches Louisville's had. They have a very easy schedule, uh, relatively speaking, and I think they don't have that many pitfall games. Obviously, the Ole Miss game to start the year on a neutral field is extremely hard, but their hardest games are SMU, NC State, Florida State, and Georgia Tech. All 4 could go either direction. They could end up being 11-1 or whatever. You know what I mean? They might just lose to Ole Miss and that's it.
It's a blessing they play SMU in the third week as well. I think they retained, like you said, they retained a lot, especially on defense. They
Yeah,
still have those running backs. They play SMU, they have a little more turnover in the transfer portal. It's more or less a new team around Kevin Jennings. People were believing a lot in SMU because of Kevin Jennings and the ceiling he can provide a team. They're playing them in the third week where Louisville has a lot of guys coming back. I think that'll work out really well for them.
I really like this team. I really like Brom. I love their skill positions. They did lose both of their starting wide receivers to the NFL and their starting running back. So they're kind of reloading at all the skill positions, but I believe in them. I think they're a great program. I think they're going to go 9-3 again, like they have the last couple of years. As you know, I've got, just like Cole, I've got the top tiers, Miami, and then that second tier below is Clemson, Louisville, SMU, and Virginia. And I've got SMU and Louisville being second and third interchangeably behind Miami.
I
I
will
think they're
say
the
I have my
second and third
concerns
best team.
about Louisville's pass catch a little bit too, but they did bring in Trey Richardson from Vanderbilt. He had 800 yards last year, so he should be, at least give
Mm-hmm.
him some production. And then this is kind of interesting. I don't now people aren't talking about this. They brought in a guy named Braden Foley from Tulsa. He's a 6'6", 250-pound, 260 pound tight ends. First team All American last year, had 500 yards as a tight end in a pass heavy system over there. They have the weapons to be good in pass catch too. I don't think it'll happen very quickly because I said I think they're just gonna. Why wouldn't they run the ball immediately? Right? They have all the
they
the
should.
chemistry right there with the running backs from last season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go
I
ahead.
don't think it can be understated how soft their schedule is. Like it's going to really help them get to a good record really quickly.
It's the fourth easiest strength of schedule in the ACC. I wanted to say that too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at this and looking at my notes about Louisville. I think how NC State plays in the Virginia game is going to tell me a lot about how they do in the Louisville game. Because
Mm-hmm.
you guys are saying it's probably going to be a lot of running back chemistry there, and O line is going to be really strong. That's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of what I think Louisville is going to be. At least by week 5, they should be a lot of running as well, and not still trying to figure out how the pass catch is going to work. Like I said, I think there's talent there, but it may take a little bit to develop and build chemistry too.
I agree.
I
I
think
don't
Jeff.
think.
I think Jeff Brom's recruiting has been sufficient now to where losing those receivers, I think he can replace them.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think Louisville will beat SMU, but and I think they'll lose to Ole Miss, so that's 2 losses right there. I think they'll drop at least one more, and they'll go 9-3. But I think overall they are the third best team in the ACC.
I think one of the best games of the entire year in the country is SMU Louisville. Like
Mm-hmm. Great game.
that's one that we got to circle. I mean,
Great game.
that's going to decide who probably the second best team in the ACC is.
It
I
is.
just think SMU, they've got a bunch of guys like Virginia who are 5th and 6th year. They're really, really kind of a mature senior team. We talked about SMU. This is probably their last run, and then they're going to have to reset. So I just like a little bit more SMU's experience over Louisville. They've had to reload this year.
I wanted to hear you guys. Good segue. I wanted to hear you guys talk about SMU because I said I have them in the 9-3 slot here as well. But again, I had them losing to Louisville, so it makes sense in my mind that their tiebreaker they would go down and would not make the championship game. They lost a lot. I feel like they lost 7 of the top 12 tacklers. They did bring in a lot of transfers in defense, especially in the back 7, which should be good starting caliber guys from last year. They also lost their top 2 running backs and top 2 wide receivers.
Mhm.
They returned 3 offensive linemen, so that's good. They do release a lot of starts up front as well. And they return their wide receiver 3. They get Kendrick Raphael, who's at Cal and NC State before that running back. So there's some talent there, but they lose a ton. Like, I don't know. I really feel like this team is just how far will Kevin Jennings take us, which isn't the worst spot to be, but it doesn't sound like a 10-win team to me. Can you guys tell me more about why you feel like that?
I think he's the second best quarterback in the league. I think that they are a really solid program. As we talked about, their NIL numbers are way up there. They're third in NIL. They absolutely reload, and everyone feels really strongly about their transfers this year. I agree with you; they did have some big losses, but I think they win that Louisville game, and I think they go to 10-2, and they go to 10-2 in a weak conference.
I think that they are loaded with money. They have tremendous backing, financial backing, so they can NIL their way into reloading easier than most. I think that they have 12 returning starters. They lost 9 all ACC defensive players, but clearly they've been trying to transfer in a lot of players and move some up. I think Rhett Lashley is one of the better coaches in the country. He's incredible.
Me too.
He's had the top 15 scoring offense 6 years in a row. Not an accident, right? So Kevin Jennings is awesome. He's had 26 games as a starter. Good experience. He's been top 10 in passing yards and touchdowns, passing touchdowns. And so he's had 7,000 yards, 49 scores. Those are all SMU records. I think he's clearly an important piece here, but they moved a lot of pieces around him in and out. But I think that this coaching staff, they have a good track record. And they had some really big wins last year. They have
Cole,
joint offensive defensive coordinators. They have a lot of leaders.
Uh,
That's how Lashley likes it. So
mhm.
I don't know. I just think this team is really, really strong. Um, they, I really think it's between them and Louisville for second in the conference. And they also have a relatively weak schedule. It's slightly harder than Louisville's, but not much.
I like them to go 10-2. I think, Cole, you said exactly what is true, which is most people think that it's going to be Jennings takes them as far as he can. That's how far they're going to go. But I think that's only partially true because the other half of the equation is the reload they did on their defense isn't going to be good enough. And we just don't know yet. We're going to have to see them play.
But they're not going to get tested as much as a lot of other teams because their schedule is weak.
Hold on, Rob. I wanted to dissect this. I think you guys understand how tough this schedule is. I mean, the first 3 weeks here, they play. Their first game is at Florida State. We know that's a very tough place to play. Alabama lost them to Florida State just
Yeah.
2 years ago, I think it was. And keep in
Yeah.
mind, Florida State has already played a game too in week 0 against New Mexico State, so they've already had a game under their belt to be together.
Yep.
That's gonna be tough. They get an FCS game against UC Davis, and then they play at Louisville in there. I think there's an okay world where they start 1-2, and then they still have to play at Notre Dame later.
Yeah, but then they go on a run of Missouri State, BC, UVA, Cal, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake
No, come
Forest.
on. You think like the
I
Virginia,
mean,
Cal, at Houston
relatively
Tech?
speaking, that's pretty easy. They're not going to Georgia,
But
Alabama,
Cole
Texas,
is right.
In
Oklahoma.
the
Cole is right.
ACC's like grand scheme of things, those are 4 really solid teams, and Syracuse is away.
What's solid? Virginia is, but
Cal and
BC,
Virginia
Cal,
Tech.
and
All 3 of those
Syracuse
teams are
aren't.
good.
They're not great.
Cal's pretty good. Cal's pretty good. Cal's
They're,
going 9-3 this year.
they have some
They're
players,
pretty good.
but they're not a great team, I think.
But
I
Cole
guess
makes a
I
good
see
point.
Cal lower than you guys do. I see that as a winnable stretch where you can get right.
Cole makes a good point. Their tough part of their schedule is actually the first part of the schedule, which most of them don't have that. They actually have a tougher first
They have a
6 weeks.
hard first game, a joke second game, a hard third game, and then 2 easy games. Virginia, which I think is tough, but maybe Prebula is not as good as we think.
That's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a good
It
game, I
should be
think.
a really good game. And then Cal, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, pretty doable. At Notre Dame's a nightmare, and then they finish at Stanford that might go winless. So it's not
I
as
mean,
easy as Louisville's, but it's
but is
close.
it possible with that schedule, as Cole is saying, is it possible for them to go 8-4? Yes, of course. It's possible that they might have a bad defense this year. We'll see.
I'll be honest. I think they will be with the transfers on defense. I think they'll be a much better defense at the end of the season. But like, they should win Cal at home. I don't know about Virginia at home. I don't know about Virginia Tech at home. And if at Syracuse, if Angeli's healthy, should be a really difficult game as well, potentially. I don't trust everybody on the road when there's an okay team. I think they lose one of those 4 games. I think they have a pretty good chance to lose at least one of the first 2, maybe both of them. And I think there's no way they beat Notre Dame. That's 4 or 5 losses in my math. But again, I'm lower on this team, I think, than you guys are.
You definitely are. I've got them 10-2, but I could easily see 9-3. I could see
I could
them
easily
definitely.
see them beating Florida State, which would be a hard game and probably very close.
Mm.
I could see them pulling it out against Louisville. That's a coin flip game. They could, and if they beat those 2 teams, they're going to beat Virginia, and there's no one else that touches them until maybe Virginia Tech, but Notre Dame definitely beats them. So they could easily be 11-1 also.
So you guys think they will go 4-0 between Virginia, Cal, at Syracuse, and Virginia Tech in a matter of 4 weeks?
No, I personally think they're going to drop one of those games.
They
I think
might
that's one.
drop one, but
Yeah, I
maybe.
think
But
they lose one of those games and they lose Notre Dame game. That's why I've got them
what's more
10-2.
likely, they lose at Florida State or they drop one of those easy games?
Uh,
About the same.
I think
I think
Florida
it's about the
State's going
same.
I
to be
say
pretty bad this
50-50
year.
in both
Yeah.
cases.
I have Florida State 5-7 this year. I don't think they're going to be
I
good
think
at
the
all.
highest likelihood is one or the other. They either lose at Florida State or they drop one of those games unexpectedly.
Tom, I also have Florida State at 5-7. We'll talk about that later because
Yep.
they're a polarizing team, but their schedule is awful.
Yep. It is.
So that's a lot on SMU. Next team here I have, the last one of this bracket here, this tier is Clemson. And Clemson's a fun case because they've been going downhill for a couple years now. Obviously, Dabo's not quite the same Clemson program as it was, but they're what they win. I think they went 7-6 last year for the first
7-6.
time. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is unbelievable. And they lose Cade Klubnik, so that's a big deal. Everybody expected him to be really good. I think he's a 5th-year guy last year, a ton of experience. Now they bring in Christian
lost.
Vizina. Was
They
that?
lost 9 NFL draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that high.
That's a lot of talent leaving your team to
And
go
a
to
lot
the
of them are on the
NFL.
defensive side of the ball. So I'm worried about their defense. I'm worried about their quarterback situation. They don't have the weapons they used to have.
I'm worried about the offense.
They
I think
did
the
bring it.
defense is going to be really good.
I think it's going to be decent. It's going to be
I
decent,
think
but
the offense is questionable.
Yeah.
they finally brought in some transfers on the lines, both offensive and defensive. So it was good to see he finally buckled and went to the transfer portal. I personally think Clemson is still down a bit. They're not terrible, but I have them at 7-5 or 8-4. So I think they're going to be kind of in that middling area.
Okay. Yeah,
I will
I'm very
say,
worried about the offense. Hold on a second, Robbie. We agree about this, that like they lost 4 offensive linemen, their best running back, and their offensive coordinator. I just don't see how in their quarterback, the 5th-year quarterback guy, I don't see how somebody can like revamp all of that. They brought in Chad Morris as well. I'm sure some people like that move. I think it's a little bit desperate just to try and like grab somebody that was there during the success and kind of relive that a little bit and hope that he can solve the problem, the crisis that they very clearly have on offense. I think the defense should be good, but I have a ton of concerns on offense. Rob, what do you
but
think?
you just touched on what I was about to talk about, which is Chad Morris coming back. They're bringing him back because they want to run the ball better and take the pressure off their quarterback. And Vizina has one start, but he did really well in his start.
Mm-hmm.
So if he is that guy,
Decent.
then play action is going to work really well when they start pounding the ball. And they always have horses at offensive line. They're always, have a lot of talent that they brought up through the ranks. And this year they have, 11 portal guys. So they have come into the modern age of NIL, even though they're still behind in the use of NIL and all that. They're doing it now. So I think the message has gotten through. I think that Dabo woke up and said, I'm getting left behind here. And I think Vizina has a lot to prove, only having one start. But man, he showed a lot in that 4 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Yeah.
He had 406 yards throwing. He's got potential. So I don't know if they belong in this tier, the second tier. I think they really might deserve to be at the top of the third, but
I mean, you
they've
look at their schedule, you just look at, they're going to lose to LSU. Okay. Then they've got 2 patty cakes. They're going to win both those games. They'll start 2-1. Then they play California Berkeley at California, a 10:30 p.m. Eastern
that
game.
doesn't scare me. I think Clemson rolls over them.
No, I think they lose to California.
I think they
they're
lose to
going to
Cal as well. It's a long way over there.
And the other reason they lose to Cal is because the week after that they play Miami,
I think
which
that's why they beat Cal, because they know
they're
what's
going to
coming.
get destroyed by Miami. So I think they start 2-3. Then they play Charleston. They'll win that game 3-3. Then they play Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech is not a rollover this year. Then they have Florida State. I mean, so they have a tough schedule.
This
They
is a
have
tough ACC schedule. I
lot of
didn't notice
losable
that
games.
before.
They have a lot of games they're going to lose.
It's on the harder side, but it's not brutal.
And then they got South Carolina. That's not going to be an easy
big
game.
games are spread out, which is nice for them. That was good scheduling. There's many weaker games in between their hard games.
I look at their ceiling is 8-4 and their floor is 7-5. I think it's going to be right in that range. 8-4, 7-5.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think I had them losing LSU, Cal, and Miami, and then winning out, which sounds a little bit crazy when looking at the last 6 of these games after Charleston. But I don't know. I guess I just believe in Dabo. I'm not ready to give up on him yet. I think he can win all these games.
I think they could lose to Virginia Tech. I think they could lose to Duke. I think they could lose to South Carolina. So I don't know.
I'm not going to go that far. They're pretty
You know what
loaded.
the biggest thing, guys, they've lost, and this is a profound statement, the thing they've lost the last 2 seasons is their mystique. You know, Florida State used to have their mystique, and then it got busted when they got so bad. Clemson doesn't have their mystique anymore. When people go into Clemson anymore, they're not scared. I mean, they feel like they can play with them. So they've lost their mystique.
They did lose like 3 home games last year, or 2 home games. They hadn't lost more than 1 home game since Tommy Bowden was coaching there. That means something, Tom. I hear you about that.
There's a mystique going into Clemson typically when you go into what they call Death Valley, and you think you're going to lose no matter what. That's been busted now. Everyone thinks they can beat them. Pitt's beating them, and everyone seems to have their turn at Clemson now. So
I think with the way that portal is, teams can reload quickly, and teams that had mystique in the past can get it back really quickly. I think if Clemson beats LSU to start the season, people think of them as Clemson again.
So I think, Cole, you have Virginia. You have Virginia in the too low bracket. You have Clemson too high bracket. I would switch Virginia and Clemson.
I definitely understand that. We can segue that into Virginia as well, because you guys had an amazing year. Obviously, 11-3. I keep hearing this, and it couldn't be more accurate. You guys had the year that Dave Doran and NC State fans have been trying to have ever since he's been there. That illustrious 10, 11 win season, double digit win season. But you lost a lot. You lost Chandler Morris, running two running backs. I think you also lost all your wide receivers and your best tight end, right? I mean, a lot of the skill position is gone from last season. But you do get Prabula. You said you get a lot of running backs as well. Peyton Lewis from Tennessee should be really good. And then
Mm-hmm.
165 starts up front is an unfathomable number. That's got to be like top 2 or 3 in the nation as far as starting lineups or starts for an offensive line. 5 guys back on defense. Defensive line should be really good. The linebacker core kind of stayed as well. You guys have a bunch of transfers in the secondary, and it's also the second easiest strength of schedule in the ACC. So
Yeah.
a lot to like about this team, but you lost a lot. How are you guys feeling about this team this year?
I'm waiting to see Bo Prabula in the system to see if he can have the light go on like Chandler Morris did. If so, I really feel good about this team, and I hate to have the whole team come down to one player. I don't think the quarterback is that important to where he will determine everything, but it's so important to get that piece right because he touches the ball in every play, and he's your leader. He's your guy that in the huddle, he's the voice that you hear. He's the guy that makes the adjustments and gets yelled at by the coach and makes the mistake. And I don't know. There's so much riding on Bo Prabula being good. But if he is, I think they have a lot of pieces. I love their defense. John Rosinski is one of the best defense coordinators in the country, I think. And I think Cam Robinson is one of the best linebackers in the country. And he just flies around. I mean, I don't even put him in a position because he can do everything, so he's a total weapon on defense. They had a huge season last year, but I think they're smart. I realized a few years ago when Virginia was trying to line up all these hard games and getting blasted, go for the easier teams, go for the easier schedule, get a lot of wins, and you get consideration at least for nice bowl games and possibly squeak your way in one year when you have a special year into the playoff. I'd rather have wins against patty cakes than a lot of moral victories against the top teams and losses.
Yeah.
And then every now and then you get blown out by like a top team. But West Virginia to me seems a little scary. I know they've been down, but
They're
I
going to
don't
be up
know.
with Rich Rod pretty soon. I hear you about that.
Yeah. At Florida State is tough. At SMU is tough. At Virginia Tech, I don't think this is that easy of a schedule.
We have 5 hard games. We have NC State, SMU, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Florida State. So we have 5 hard games.
Yeah.
If we win 3 of those games, we're going to go 10-2.
That's what
So
I wanted to
I
say.
mean,
I have
Rob,
eight
we
and
don't
four.
play Clemson. We don't play Miami.
But
We don't play all the big time.
are
We
you
don't play
saying that
Louisville.
Duke can't beat us? They just beat us
I
in
don't.
the championship
I
game.
don't think so. I think we're
At
going to
Wake
absolutely
Forest is
blast them.
always tough.
Different Duke
Cal,
team.
We're going to blast them.
UNC, we have the oldest rivalry in the South.
We're going to blast them.
I'm not worried about Delaware. I'm not that worried about Syracuse, even though I think that they got some players. And Norfolk State is not worrisome at all. But NC State, West Virginia, Florida State, SMU, Virginia Tech, that's 5 potential losses.
Yeah.
And then
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
without maybe dropping the ball somewhere else too. We could be, 7-6?
We could be 7-6 or 10-2. There's a
Yeah.
big range there.
Yeah. And
Tom,
that comes down to what shows up with the quarterback position, the wide receiver position.
I feel very secure and very confident with Elliott and his program right now. They've learned how to win. They have tremendous lines. They have the best offensive line in the ACC. They have a really tough and stout defense right now. They can really
Here's
run the ball. And what
here's
he
the
said
thing.
today was, we're going to try to keep it away from C.J. Bailey. We don't want him to have the ball. So they're going to pound the ball all day Saturday.
Tom,
They're going to
Virginia won
run.
five last second wins last year,
Mm-hmm.
last minute wins.
Yep.
Those could have gone another way. And we could be talking about Virginia being a middle team
So I'm
instead
trying to
of.
be fair and not overly optimistic, and so that's why I've got Virginia at 9-3. I think in that 5-game stretch, they're going to go 2-3. I think they're going to go 9-3 for the season.
That would be a good season if they did that.
Yep.
I say, Tom, to your point about switching and hit them in Clemson, I had when I read my original notes, I had them going 9-3, and when I looked at the actual the matchup specific and had to create the standings, I somehow had them at 8-4. So I guess I assume that they would lose because I had them losing to SMU and I had them losing at Virginia Tech. Sorry guys, I believe Virginia Tech and it's an away game. Those are my two losses I had penciled in. I guess between NC State and at Florida State, they should maybe lose one of those games, but I'm not too worried about the rest of them. I mean, this probably is a 9-3 team looking at the schedule here.
I think so. I think to expect them to win 11 games this year is ridiculous. That happens to Virginia every 20 years. So, I mean, a 9-3 season, I'd be very pleased. That means they're really
Yeah, I
solid
would
this
take
year.
it. We don't have to win the ACC for it to be a pretty solid season.
How do you guys feel about Virginia Tech? Because I think this team has a ton of potential, and I feel like bowl game is bare minimum for James Franklin, but I think they could win as high as 10 games this year.
When they hired James Franklin from Penn State, I was sick at my stomach because, us Virginia fans, we despise Virginia Tech, and they feel the same way about us. And it's kind of like the old Redskin Cowboy rivalry. It's a thing where you want to win and you want to root for them to lose. But there's respect there, and I respect that program so much. And the fact that he plugged right into their program, pulled a lot of his good players with him, got a lot of great players in the portal. They've got a lot of NIL money. They have really good boosters. Their fan base travels. Um, I think they're going to be very good. I mean, I've got them at 9-3 as well.
Franklin is a very good coach. He should have never lost his job at Penn State, in my opinion, because there's a whole lot worse things than just losing to Ohio State, Michigan every year and going to a really good bowl game. I mean, that doesn't mean you're a bad coach. So what I feel about them is they have a lot of question marks. This is the one that stands out to me as the shuffling of the deck. When you bring in this many guys, he's bringing in 12 transfers directly from Penn State and 11 commits that were going to Penn State and switched. So they never went to Penn State, but they were on paper going. So that's 23 players that were at Penn State or going there. And so what happens when you fold that many guys from one place into your program? It becomes a hybrid team it quickly looks like something else. And I don't know what that does to your locker room. Like, I think it's an unknown when you're starting out how that's going to mesh. Maybe it takes a couple weeks to get together. Maybe it takes half the season. But they do have a lot of nice returning pieces. But do you guys know they were the third worst offensive line in the Power Four by grade?
I did not.
That's bad. And they have question marks, in my opinion, at the offensive and defensive lines. That's not normal for a Virginia Tech team.
The other thing is they really struggled to score last year, and that's unusual for them. They just could not put points on the board. I'm going to have to see it to believe it because I don't think you can transition that quickly. I think they're still going to struggle a little bit on the offensive side. They'll get it rolling as the season goes. When I look at their schedule, though, their schedule's pretty easy. I mean, they've got, in my opinion, I give them 9-3 because I've got them losing to Cal, to SMU, and to Clemson. But, I mean, they could quite easily beat Cal and go 10-2. So, I mean, even though I have some real question marks about them, I think it'll take Franklin another year to really get
You
them to
didn't
where he
say
wants.
Miami, did you?
Yeah, I have them losing to Miami, Clemson, and SMU. And then Cal will be the game whether they go 8-4 or 9-3.
And
So
then
you
Virginia.
guys both have
They
them
could
losing
lose to
to
Cal.
beating Virginia.
Do
They
what?
could lose to Cal.
You guys both have them beating Virginia in the last game, the rivalry game at the end.
I just don't know.
I think if Pribula is good, they can beat Virginia Tech.
Yep, I agree.
If everything works together offensively, I think the defense is good enough to stop them. I think that Ethan Gruckemeyer is a question mark. Everyone's penciling him in like he's
Me too.
a commodity that's well known. I know Franklin knows him really well, but I don't think His team doesn't know him. And I don't think he's really proven it on the field yet. So
there's a possibility,
he was a
Cole.
backup.
There's a possibility in a perfect world that game in Blacksburg, Virginia, the weekend after Thanksgiving, you might have a 9-2 Virginia team and a 9-2 Virginia Tech team. That's a real possibility.
Possible.
That would be awesome.
Whoever wins that game goes 10-2 and
Yeah.
goes to the ACC championship game.
Look at
That would
Virginia
be
Tech's
cool.
lineup: VMI, ODU, Maryland, at Boston College, Pitt, Cal, at Cal.
That's the game I'm worried about.
They could be 6-0 at that point.
They could be, but I'm worried about that game because anybody who goes out to the West
They could be
Coast for
7-0.
10:30
Oh yeah, Georgia
games.
Tech too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 7-0, and then at Clemson.
We just said Clemson's
be,
not the same at home last year, right?
Yeah, that'd be a coin flip. So they could be 8-0 at that point. And then SMU, I think SMU wins that game, so they're 8-1.
That late in the year
Stanford is a
too.
joke. That's 9-1. At Miami, it's 9-2. Rolling in Virginia Tech, they could be 9-2.
What did I just say? They could both be 9-2 going into that game.
I know.
Possible.
I'm just putting a lot of faith.
I personally think California's going to bite somebody, and I think they're going to bite Virginia Tech. That's what I think.
We'll talk about Cal next because there's some stuff that I dislike and like on the over on that team. But yeah, I like this offense at Virginia Tech is pretty interesting, and I'm putting a lot of faith in the defense being really good. I don't know if you guys found yourself doing that too, just because they weren't as good last year, but what's his name? Brent Pry is still the DC, and he's known as a good defensive guy under Franklin. They again, like I said before, they had that chemistry there. They return 7 defensive starters, and they bring in some Penn State guys. Penn State defense, talent-wise anyways, is just off the charts. Those guys are so talented. So I have to pencil them in as being good defenders and get a pretty good defensive team, especially by the end of the year.
I agree.
Because, Rob, I hear you out about the maybe taking a long while to bring in the Penn State guys and the Vatek guys and other transfers. That melding together could be a little weird at first. Their offense, on their hands, Ethan Gronkmeyer is interesting because the numbers aren't amazing. He went 4-3 as a starter, and his per game passing yards is not great. But his first 3 games were at Iowa, at Ohio State, and Indiana, and they almost beat Indiana. They were the closest to beating Indiana that anybody was last season, and that was his first 200-yard game as well against a very good Indiana defense. Then they went 4-0, and they beat Clemson. Now, I'm sure a lot of those defensive NFL guys weren't playing in that game. I don't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me. But he had 260 yards against Clemson in that bowl game, and as far as that 4-0 streak. So that's why there is hype around him. I don't love it. I have to see it in Virginia Tech before I, in Blacksburg before I crown him a great quarterback or anything.
Cole, he had 2 NFL running backs in the backfield behind him. Both of them got drafted in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. He doesn't have that at Virginia Tech. And so what I'm really worried about is I'm not as worried about him. I think he's pretty good. I don't think he has anything around him. I don't think his offensive line's very good. He doesn't have any weapons. Last year they averaged 13 points a game. They just can't put points on the board. I think their defense will be very good. I think they're going to be in a lot of 20 to 17 games this year. I just don't know which side they're going to be on, 20 or 17.
I'm not sure their defensive line's going to be that great. I know their secondary and their linebackers are going to be good. I think teams can run on them. But here's the thing. I think they kept Brent Fry for several reasons. I think that, first of all, he's loyal to James Franklin. James Franklin's loyal to him. Second of all, Franklin's sort of saying he shouldn't have got fired, just like I shouldn't have got fired. So
that's funny.
Bring him back. Third, he's going to be in charge of the shuffling of the deck, keeping his finger on the pulse of his kids. So I think it's kind of a marriage made in heaven in terms of if you're going to fold 2 teams in together, you keep both coaches, you can keep a lot of feathers from getting ruffled. But I do think this is the weakest offensive line I've seen Virginia Tech have in a long time. And I think their defensive line can be run on. So I think that they have areas that make them beatable.
Here's the bottom line. I've been watching Virginia and Virginia Tech football for 40 years or more. And every single season, both of them lose at least one game they shouldn't, and it's usually against an opponent you can't even believe they would lose to. I remember 2 years ago when Virginia Tech lost to Old Dominion. So we can say all we want about, both of them going 9-2 into the Virginia Tech game at the end of the year, but I think reality is that both of them are going to drop a game that we don't expect. That just happens every year for both teams.
Say with Virginia Tech, I hear you guys out about the offensive line. That's one thing I definitely can't agree on. Just objectively, I have concerns about their offensive line. But they're bringing in some Penn State guys on the front seven, especially like that's Rob, where I just have to have faith in the Penn State defensive line. I've never seen James Franklin like Penn State not be able to stop the run. They have good run defense over there for a while, so I have faith in that. And then I kind of like some of their skill position guys. I know that it was really poor last year, and they retained some of those guys. So if you want to say they may not be great, I'll hear you out about that too. But they returned their running back one. Guy's name is Marcellus Hawkins. He had 750 yards last year. They brought
Yeah.
in a guy named Bill Davis. He had 700 yards 2 years in a row at Louisiana. I'm not sure how that'll translate to ACC, but he's put up numbers before. They got Quayshawn Brown, who's Duke's number one option, wide receiver, 800 yards last year too. And then Luke Reynolds was an okay tight end from Penn State too. So I think they have and the
they
wide
have
receiver one.
Aiden Green, wide receiver.
Is that the wide receiver one?
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
returning guy. So they got some good skill position guys. I think their quarterback position is every bit as much of a question mark as Virginia's is. I think that's where we're in the same boat. One might go north, one might go south. Maybe one fits the system better than the, who knows. Defensively, though, they need to do some work. I think Virginia is further ahead in the defensive side, which is very rare because Virginia Tech's always good on defense. And this is the first time where I think we might actually be better than them, but
I think so.
maybe not. Maybe I'm dreaming. I don't know, but
I think it's not usual for us, but I think our strength this year is actually our defense. Our defense is going to be really good.
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. If Cam Robinson gets hurt again, that hurt. We're not the same team.
Virginia Tech may end up being like a 16-13 game.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Or both can turn into powerhouses as they go through these tune-up games and get right.
That'll be fun to watch in the next couple of years as well.
Let's just put it this way. I don't know how good Virginia Tech's going to be how good they're going to be this year, but I think they're building something there and it scares me.
I agree. I think this year they're going to be, 8-4, 9-3, but I'm very worried about the future.
I definitely agree.
They might be in that second tier next year.
Yeah, I think so too. So NC State, this team has such an easy schedule, and the more I look at it, the more I get excited for it. It is the easiest strength of schedule in the ACC, and it's actually the third easiest strength of schedule in the entire Power Four, which is very nice. We lose a lot of talent on offense and defense, frankly, as well. We lose the top end talent, Hollywood Smothers, Noah Rogers, Terrell Anderson. All three of those guys went to offensive powerhouses in Texas, Bama, and Southern Cal. Lost our tight end, Justin Gillette, in the NFL. We do have Duke Scott. Last year, he stepped up in a couple games, especially against Georgia Tech. We had almost 200 yards. I like him to take a pretty big step. Some people expect a lot out of him, and I'm not sure if that's sustainable. But I think it's going to be a lot more on CJ than him personally.
I like him a lot.
He is very shifty. He's fun to watch. We also brought in a couple wide receivers. I think the biggest name of that is Victor Snow from Buffalo, who's good for a couple years, and JoJo Trader from Miami.
JoJo Trader.
Yeah, he's gonna be fun to watch. I'm really curious what he produces because he on paper should be really good.
I don't know how they got him.
I'm not sure either. We probably threw him back, to be honest. That's probably a decent bit of our NIL is on the Miami receiver. We get to retain Keenan Jackson, who was one of our better wide receivers last year. The O-line has 67 total starts. I believe our center's going to be really good, so that could be good too. But the defense was the big problem last year. We only returned 2 starters. So it should be, in theory, revamping the defense, kind of bringing in new guys and hopefully it being better than it was just talent-wise last year. I liked our edge rusher, Harvey Dyson. He had 8 sacks last year, 2 lanes, should be really good. Linebacking core lost a ton, but we brought in Popo Aguirre, I think is how you say his last name, from Miami. He should be really talented, really well-recruited guy out of Miami. And then secondary returns a couple guys while adding King Mack from Penn State, which I'm super excited about. Great name, great player. One of the fastest guys on our team as well. He might be our kickoff return guy or punt return guy as a DB, which is pretty cool. I think this team could win 9 or 10 games. I feel like I say that every year about NC State, so we'll see what actually happens. But this team, like you guys said about Virginia, where the range is pretty wide, we could go 5-7 if the defense is just as bad and CJ gets hurt, the season's over just immediately like that, right? So 5-7 as a floor and maybe 10-2 as a ceiling. I have them going 8-4, but 9-3 could happen somewhat easily as well with this schedule.
I'm a big fan of Dave Doran. Every year I watch them have high expectations. He has some weird losses. Everyone turns on him, wants him fired.
Yeah.
And then he saves it right at the end, like a plane that pulls up. And then they love the guy again as he goes off at the end of the season. So it's the strangest thing. It's his 14th season, and he's done a really good job. I mean, CJ Bailey's a 6'6" quarterback with a cannon arm, one of the best in the country at throwing the long ball. If you look at statistically, his long balls are some of the most accurate in the NFL. I mean, in college, I guarantee you the NFL is drooling. Can't wait to get their hands on this guy and get him a good
Agree.
year under the belt, behind Justin Herbert or something like that. The funny thing about CJ Bailey is they say that he's really good at exciting plays and not very good at boring ones. He misses easy little dink and dunks over the
Yeah.
middle, but he throws like a perfect strike 40 yards downfield. Um, so that's stuff you can clean up, but it's a concentration thing or something. There's a mechanics thing, footwork. I love the running backs that they have. Duke Scott is awesome. Do you know that as a freshman he was averaging 5.5 yards a carry and he did not have a fumble?
I didn't know the fumble thing, but I mean, it
And
makes
he had
sense.
600 yards. He had a lot of carries, like a decent amount of carries. So he's a workhorse. He's going to be awesome. He's not going to go all this year without fumble, but he's going to be low on the turnover scale, which is beautiful for a running back. They got a lot of nice transfers. It's a little bit questionable, the front seven on defense. Hopefully the transfers come in and kind of get it done. But JoJo Trader is going to be a big time hookup with CJ Bailey. Do you know why? They went to high school together.
Yes, I meant to say that. Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
went to high school
So
together
I'm in
and they know
Florida.
each other really well. And one of the reasons why he came here is to play with his old friends. So, um, by the way, a bunch of stars in the NFL went to that same high school
I
in
noticed
Florida.
that. Yeah, I noticed that too
Yeah.
while researching.
So that's going to be a nice connection all year, I think. They have the same second year for their offensive defensive coordinators, and I think just really good coaching system, really deep players. I don't think they have a lot of stars on this team, but they've got a lot of good players on this team. So they're going to be a nightmare to play. They're going to be tough.
I gotta say too, the defense coordinator lost his daughter last year, and I excused a lot of the defensive woes because of him doing that and maybe not being in the right headspace, which I just again completely understand. I do expect a bounce back year from the defense statistically because of him being in a better
Yeah.
headspace. So that's part of the optimism as well.
And also, I don't think it can be overstated how easy their schedule is.
Yes.
They're playing 6 of the bottom 7 ACC teams.
Yeah.
In some ways, but I got to be honest, I'm going to step in here because when I look at the schedule, okay, they got Virginia. Virginia's favored by 7.5 in this game.
5.5.
I could not
I think
believe
it's
that.
down to 4.5 now.
Is
Five
it
and a
down?
half.
Injury
Okay.
report.
I was surprised Virginia was favored at all, but anyway. Then they got Richmond, easy game. Vanderbilt, I'm not going to
Easy.
say they're going to beat Vanderbilt in
That's an
Vanderbilt.
easy one.
I'm not sure about that.
I don't
I,
know if it's I don't I don't think it'll be favored to
I'd
be
be a
honest,
little
but
cautious. I'd be
yeah,
a little
I call it
cautious
toss
for
up.
this CP.
Okay, not easy, but they should win that game.
They
I think
That's
it's
the
a
should,
way
but
I
toss
I'm
say it.
up.
not sure. And then App State, I wouldn't take it for granted. App State's really tough.
Come on now, Tom.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
should win. They should win. Then they got Louisville. I don't think they're going to win that game.
That's tough.
They got California. I know you guys keep blowing me off when I say California's good this year, but I got
I
them at
like
nine,
Cal. I'll
No,
talk
nine
I'm
and
about them in a
three.
second.
blowing them off. He thinks they're going to be good.
Yeah, I'll
I
talk
I
about
got them
Cal.
at 9 and 3. I got them at 9 and 3. So I got they may lose to California. Duke, you just don't know. I mean, they should beat Duke, but who knows?
I think
You got
NC State is a much better team than California. Not much better.
fortunately,
They're a better
fortunately,
team than California.
fortunately, you got Syracuse in Raleigh, so I think they'll win that game. I think at Syracuse they're much tougher. Florida State, you just don't know. They're probably going to be playing for the coach's job at that point in
Might
I
be
think
Tallahassee.
fired by
Florida
then.
State's one of their hardest games
Yeah,
at Florida State. That's tough.
Yeah,
and then
it
and then
is.
Chapel Hill, you don't know. They may be playing for Belichick's job. So it's easy, but I don't know. They've got 5 games I'd be worried about.
Comparatively speaking, their toughest games are Virginia, Louisville, and Florida State.
Yeah,
True,
yeah, pretty much.
but
That's the end of that conversation most
but
of the time.
they always lose a game just like Virginia does that you don't expect. So I'm telling you,
I
they
know,
will.
but you can't worry about that. I mean,
So I've got them at 8-4.
that's what
I think
makes people disappointed and calling for coaches' heads and stuff.
I've got them at 8-4. They may even have a really good start and be like 3-1 or 4-1, like they always do.
Do you think it's possible they beat Virginia? Yes.
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
think it's possible they beat Louisville? Yes.
Yeah, possible.
Do you think it's possible they beat Florida State? Yes.
hmm
Is it possible that this team could go 12-0? Yes, it's possible.
And is it possible they lose to App? Is it
Yeah.
possible they lose to Vanderbilt?
It's unlikely.
Yeah, yeah.
It's possible. Possible.
But this team might be 9-3.
Could be.
I will say the first 5 games, I've said this like for months now, the first 5 games will tell us how this team is, like 100%. Like after we could be 2-3 and I'd be disappointed, but we still could probably finish 8-4. Really, honestly, with this schedule,
think
That's what Dave Dorn does.
yeah, yeah.
Dave Dorn came
or we
out.
could be 4-1 or 3-2, and now I'm looking for 10 wins this season because of the
Dave
rest of
Dorn
the
came
schedule.
out in his press conference in Charlotte with all the other coaches, and they asked him, "What is your goal this year?" And he said that I've been here 14 seasons and I have not had a 10-win season yet, and that's what I want to do this year. So he seems very determined to get 10 wins this year. He may get it. He may get it
Cole,
with this schedule.
haven't
But
you seen the same pattern that I have where they start real strong? They're always winning games in the beginning. Around the middle, they go on a weird losing streak. And then at the end, they pull it up and they win their last 3 and the bowl game.
Well, we don't win the bowl game. He's got a
Okay,
bad bowl
fair.
record,
They
but
win
yeah,
up until the bowl game,
I will also
and they
say,
save Dorn's job every year.
well, that's what it is. It's the save Dorn's job because we keep beating Carolina at the end of the year. That's happened so many times. Any state fan will tell you it's happened over and over again. That's why you think of the roller coasters because we keep winning at the end of the season. Everybody's like, all right, we'll take the 7-5, we'll take the 8-4. It is
Yeah.
very repetitive.
The middle of the season is where Dorn's teams lose focus.
Lose
And
to Wake
honestly,
Forest,
That's
right?
a soft part of the schedule. I think they'll be okay in there. So it's I think they could have a pretty good season.
I've got them at 8-4 as a basement and 9-3 as a ceiling. So that's
I
where
like
I see 'em
8-4
right.
as a basement. Rob, what do you think their record's going to be? Our record.
Probably a lot's going to depend on the Virginia game, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
because that's one that would make the difference between 9-3
Me too.
and 8 and
If
4.
they beat Virginia, they're going to be 9-3 for sure.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, talk to me about California because I got a lot of notes on it. But there's like the Texas from the last video. I have one thing that stops me from liking Cal to go 9-3. So I want to hear what your thoughts on them are.
My thoughts are is that there's 4 quarterbacks in the ACC that they say are bona fide NFL quarterback prospects, and one of them is at California. And he played very well last year. I was really impressed with him. He's a lefty. Last year, he was a true freshman, and he came in and he played Virginia very, very tough. We pulled that game out. It was one of the kind of last-minute games Rob talks about. But I was incredibly impressed with this kid, and this program has been building for a while. They got really bad for a while, and they've been coming up and coming up. I've got them 9-3 this year, and I think they're going to knock some people off that are really surprising people. And I think NC State may be one of them.
Rob, you are less high on this Cal team.
I can't really put my finger on it. I think the talent level is sporadic across their roster. I think that they have a new coach from Oregon. He was what was he, the offensive coordinator?
He was the defensive coordinator.
Defense coordinator, right. You know, their quarterback was 18 touchdowns and 0 picks last year, which is kind of amazing.
He's very good.
He's
I didn't
very
realize it was
good.
that good.
Yeah. But they were 7-6 because I think they just don't have the depth of talent. And I think that this year isn't going to be that different. I think they're going to beat some teams surprisingly, but so is Wake Forest. It's the same thing. They remind me of Wake Forest. You don't want to play them, but they're also not going to have a great record at the end of the year. And they probably make a bowl, and people will be talking about Lepoy. Is that how you say his name?
Tosh Lepoy. It's weird. Yep.
Josh Lepoy.
Tosh.
For a bigger program going forward after a couple of years of improving. But I don't know. I don't think they're not in that tier of. They're not in that second and third tier. To me, they're in like the top of the fourth tier.
I think they're in between the 2 and 3 tier in a way. Like I think they're near that 8-4, 9-3 record, like Thomas talking about. But except for one reason, I'll say it in a second. They still have JKS, like you guys said. They hired Tosh Lepoy out of Oregon. I like him as just theoretical Oregon defensive coordinator. I feel like you can't go wrong with that. They bring him Adam Muhammad from Washington. He's a wide receiver. I think maybe a running back, 500 yards. Chase Hendricks from Ohio is a 1,000-yard wide receiver. And Dorian Thomas is tight end from New Mexico. He had almost 600 yards last year, too, in a great offense. So I think they have the skill position to help JKS, which, like Tom said, they haven't, or you guys said have not had in the past. And then they have a almost entirely new defensive front seven, and a couple of those guys are guys from Oregon. Now, they didn't get a whole lot of run in Oregon, but their Oregon system and Oregon talent on defense, which has been really good under Tosh the last couple of years, they kept some of their secondary, which wasn't terrible, and they have the third easiest strength of schedule in the ACC. There's so much to go for this team. I feel like on paper, if you look into it, my problem is this team is awful on the East Coast. They've been terrible on the East Coast every year since they joined the ACC. I have them losing every game that they go on the road. Like I can't have this team be 9-3 because they're going to lose 4 road games.
Yeah, but here's the deal, Cole. Okay, they've got Clemson, which is one of their hard games. It's in Berkeley at 10:30 at night, so Clemson's going to be exhausted. Virginia Tech, they have them in Berkeley at 10:30 at night, October 10th. So yeah, it's a really tough game, but I mean it's in Berkeley, and Berkeley's a really hard place to play. Their third hard game is SMU in Dallas. That to me is a loss. But then they have NC State, and that one's in Raleigh. And I think that's really good for NC State because I think if NC State had to travel to the West Coast and play at 10:30 at night, it'd be bad for them. Then they've got Virginia in Charlottesville. I think that's going to be really tough for them to win. I think Virginia will win that. And then they've got Pitt in Berkeley. So I feel like a lot of their really tough games are at home, and it lines up nicely.
I see it differently. I mean, they're fortunate that they're getting Clemson and Cal. That's fortunate. And they're fortunate they're getting Virginia Tech out there. But I think at SMU followed by at NC State followed by at Virginia, that's brutal.
Tough. It is tough.
That's brutal.
I agree. That's
I
their
gotta
hardest
say,
stretch.
I think if every game they played at home, I think this team wins 10 or 11 games, Tom. Like I really do mean that this team is up there. I think I have them beating Clemson at home because I think Clemson is not great when they go to the West Coast. They almost lost to Stanford a couple years ago. But I think between Clemson at UNLV, who's going to be very good this year, they're going to lose one of those games because I don't necessarily trust them at UNLV either. I think they're going to lose all 3 of those away games, SMU, NC State, Virginia, in like back-to-back weeks with one bye thrown in between.
And would you be shocked if they lost at Syracuse?
No, that's the other thing too, is I think the Syracuse, I'm going to talk about them in a second too, because I actually love the Syracuse team, at least on paper. They're still not going to do great, but they're fun. I had them losing that too. I literally had them losing at least 4 road games. So I can't have them at 9-3. I had them at 6-6 while beating Clemson, while beating Virginia Tech. Like, it's so weird.
I just think it's really unlikely. I'd go to the window right now in Vegas to say they're not going to lose every single one of those road games. I think their quarterback is that good. I just don't see it happening. They will lose most of them.
They'll win UNLV because that travel is not harsh.
UNLV's good though. They're
no, I know, but
team.
It's not a terrible trip.
Yeah, I think they'll beat UNLV and I think they'll beat Syracuse. I think a couple of the other games they travel to the East Coast. I agree with Cole. They don't do very well on the East Coast. So I think.
And by the way, they're going to lose some of those home games too.
I think they're going to.
They're going to lose. Easily could.
I think they're going to lose all 3: SMU, NC State, and Virginia. I think they lose all 3 of those games.
I think Virginia Tech beats them. I think Clemson beats them. And I think they lose all 3 of those Murderers Row home games. or
Honestly,
away games.
Clemson at UNLV and Virginia Tech are 3 really tough like, they could definitely go 1-2 in those games.
They could go
I think
9-3 or 5-7, literally.
I think
Like, they
this
could.
team's 7-5.
Maybe.
I have them at 6-6.
I think they're 7-5.
I love this team. I think they're gonna lose every game the second they go over the Mississippi. I just can't. I just look at last year, look at the year before that. They are so inconsistent, but it's actually consistently it's over on the East Coast
So
is where
what
they're
you're saying, Cole,
consistent.
is they shouldn't have joined the ACC.
Yes.
Should have
Yeah,
stayed in the Pac-12.
that's pretty much it. The last team I want to go in depth about, and then we can run through some teams, is Syracuse. Have you guys looked into Syracuse at all?
Yeah.
They were very good last year until Stephen Jelly went down. He was actually leading FBS in total yards. And then after he went down, they averaged 11 points a game on offense.
They lost 8 straight after he went down.
Yeah. While having a horrible defense, but having a defensive-minded coach in Fran Brown. So that kind of confuses me. They also brought in Amari Odom as a backup quarterback. He was at Kennesaw State. He's a really good dual threat guy. Kennesaw State won a lot of games last year, surprisingly. So I think even if he does go down, they could be okay. They got Juwan Johnson, a running back from LSU, kind of underrated. They got Ahmad Miller, running back from Jacksonville State, 1,000 yards. They've been running really good at Jacksonville State since they joined the FBS. They got a new defensive coordinator, is a guy from Toledo. You know, they've been good defensively in the MAC as well. They keep a lot of their top tacklers between the guys at Syracuse and the guys coming over from Toledo as well. So this team is honestly one of my favorite teams in the nation on paper. I just like if Angeli stays healthy, I think they could win 9 games. I think they're gonna finish 6-6 though. I just wanted to give my piece because this team is really fun and should be fun to watch.
All right, so here's the deal. Here's their schedule. New Hampshire, win. Cal is a coin flip, in my opinion. You think they're going to beat Cal in Syracuse. I think Cal might win that game.
Oh my
That's
God.
a coin flip.
Look at the second half of their season.
Then
I
they
know.
got Pittsburgh, and they got Pittsburgh. They'll beat Pittsburgh. Then they got UConn. They're going to beat UConn. So they'll be, in my opinion, 3-1 at that point. Then I think they're going to lose.
It turns into a nightmare at Virginia.
Yeah, then they're going to lose to Virginia. That's 3-2. They're going to lose to Louisville, 3-3. They're going to beat North Carolina. That's 4-3. They're going to lose to SMU, 4-4. They're going to lose to Clemson. That's 4-5. They're going to lose to NC State. That's 4-6. They're going to beat Boston College. That's 5-6, and then they're going to lose to Notre Dame 5-7, which is why I have them 5-7.
Yeah, that's right.
I have them flipping one of those games potentially. Whether it be, I think that definitely have them beating Cal because again, just as soon as you cross over the,
if they beat Cal, they'll be 6-6.
Yeah,
I think they're gonna be 4-8. They lost 28 portal players. That's a lot, and they're replacing. When you're naming some nice players coming in, that's great, but
I'm sorry, they lost like their top 7 pass catchers.
Out.
It wasn't defense. It was like their top 7 pass catchers. I meant to say that too. They lost all of their wide receivers.
They lost the top 4 wide receivers and the top 2 running backs.
Yeah.
I don't care who you're bringing in at transfer portal. It's hard to replace that.
Yeah. I just think this season will be very fun, but they have a difficult schedule, and I
they're
think
going to be fun.
I wrote down the best 6-6 team in the nation. That's what I wrote down. Just because I think
I could see that because
they should be better than the record.
I think they're going to be fun. I think it'll be entertaining. They're going to battle. They're going to be tough. They're going to play people tough. They're going to try to keep it close, but they just don't have the talent to compete against a lot of these
I like
teams.
the coaching system they have. I like the quarterback, and some of the transfers coming in will have big games and big moments, but the amount of talent that left is not replaceable.
I understand
my
that.
opinion.
Duke fills out my bowl eligibility. I had them at 6-6. What do you guys think 6-6 is good for them?
Yeah.
You think they're going to miss a bowl game?
I got them at 5-7. I think they're going to take a big step back this year without Mensa.
I really liked Manny Diaz.
I respect him too much.
He is a psychological master.
I like him too.
He's really good at getting his guys.
They went 7-5 with Mensa, so I'm looking at a situation where it's very unsettled on the offensive side.
Do you guys know they were number 1 in the country in turnovers?
Yeah.
In causing turnovers?
Yeah.
They were
Their
plus
defense
17.
is very good. Their defense is good.
It's not just they're good, they're opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rarely ever throw the ball against them. I'd be terrified.
I have them at 5-7, but Cole's 6-6. I could see that. I could see them winning 6 games, maybe.
Rob, you had them at 6-6 probably.
I don't know. I will say their schedule's pretty weak. Like, it's pretty doable. Tulane at Illinois. Illinois is tough. Stanford, William and Mary, at Georgia Tech, UNC, at Virginia, Boston College, North Carolina State, at Miami, Clemson, and at Wake.
I think if they beat Wake Forest, they go 6-6, and it's at Wake Forest last game of the year. They could go 5-7. Tom, I assume that's the one you probably have flipped. Yeah, that I see 5-7 or 7-6.
Wake Forest is going to beat somebody.
I say it's 6-6.
Maybe.
They're going to beat some of those teams.
And then, so for the not quite bowl eligible, I have Florida State, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and UNC. The first three teams I have 5-7. UNC I have 4-8. It doesn't feel great to have Florida State at 5-7, and I assume one of you guys is not going to like that. But this schedule is awful. This is a really, really brutal schedule for most of the season.
I got Florida State 5-7. I've got UNC 3-9. I've got Stanford 2-10. I mean, this is really the bottom barrel. I think Boston College also 4-8.
I guess I can fill it out for the bottom teams we want to talk about. I have Stanford at 2-10, and I have Boston College at 1-11, and I have neither team winning in conference conference game.
Mm-hmm. I just don't see any wins on their calendars. It's amazing to see the schedules when you're really bad.
Boston College is kind of fun if you look into them. Like they basically they took out everything except for Bill O'Brien. They have like a Division II quarterback coming in. They're trying to pull a Trinidad Chambliss. Like there's a lot going on there, but I don't think it's going to pan out. And I think Bill O'Brien will get fired this year.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys heard that there's talk about Tommy Castellanos coming back to Florida State?
I have not.
I don't know what's going to determine whether that happens, but that would be amazing.
That would help them out a lot. I don't like Ashton Daniels. I mean, he's okay. He's a good dual threat guy, but he's a Stanford quarterback playing in a Florida State system.
But he was a backup at Auburn. He's been in a system that.
Castellanos' case is in court right now, so he's waiting to see who's going to get the injunction.
Gus Malzahn retired, and Norvell's going to pick up the slack on calling plays. That's Norvell's sweet spot, is offensive play calling.
So overall, who do you guys think are going to go 1, 2, 3 in the ACC? Who do you think is going to play in the ACC championship game, and who's going to go to the playoff?
I really convinced myself in this podcast that Louisville is going to be a tier above SMU. I think the record is probably going to be the same, but I think Louisville is going to win that game. That may be a little too crazy. We'll see. We'll see very quickly, like in that week 3 matchup, if they are better or worse. But I think Louisville is going to be better, so I have them playing Miami in the final game, and I have Clemson and SMU, and I definitely looking at this too. I will have one of NC State, Vatech, or Virginia at 9-3. I think, Tommy, you have Virginia going 9-3. For my own homer, I guess I'll say NC State, but it'll probably be Virginia Tech since I talk about those two.
I like NC State and Virginia both to go 9-3.
Yeah, I think so. I think Miami's 1, and then I think SMU and Louisville will decide who's 2 when they play.
That's 2 and 3.
Whoever's below that is the top of the second tier or third tier.
Rob, what do you have Georgia Tech? I actually have them missing a bowl game. What do you think their record's going to be?
Yeah, I watched Alberto Mendoza play some of those games last year as a backup to his brother. I kind of liked him. I thought he was pretty good. They have all new coordinators. That's a problem. Did you know that Chris Wanke's working with their quarterbacks?
Is that right?
I did not.
Yeah. They were 9-4 last year. They're not going to have a year like that, I don't think. King was a special player. They were 91st in yards per play. Their defense was not very good. They were 105th in sack rate. So I think their defense is a real problem.
They lost a lot on offense too. Like I think they have a schedule that could make them go 6-6, but I just think there's so many questions that I think they lose a game to like a Duke or Wake Forest that you would probably expect them to win.
That's why I have them 5-7.
I think their defense is weak, and when you have that, you have to count on your offense to be amazing, and I just don't think they have that. So I think I think there's going to be a lot of losses on there.
So I've
But
got
close ones.
Miami playing either Louisville or SMU in the ACC championship game in Charlotte, and I think it'll be whoever wins the Louisville SMU game early in the season will be the other team. And I think both of the teams who are in that game will go to the playoff.
But I think this is probably the best exercise for this. Say Louisville or SMU do not make the ACC championship game. Who was most likely to play Miami besides those two?
One of the next four: Virginia, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Clemson.
But if you had to pick a team out of those four, anybody else you want to throw in there, who do you think is the most likely?
Not Clemson. Because
I think Virginia Tech has too many question marks, but they're going to be amazing next year. So
I think NC State or Virginia.
I think it's going to be NC State or Virginia. Maybe the winner of this Saturday's game.
I like that.
Probably so.
Yeah, there we go.
Probably so.
No, but I don't think there's any question. It's Louisville and SMU. One of those two is going to be the one that plays Miami.
Virginia and NC State
I can't tell you which one, but if I had to guess, I think SMU is the better team.
Me too.
But I could easily see Louisville. They're really close. That's the team that's going to. That's
I
the
really
game that's
like
going to
Kevin
decide it.
Jennings. I think in the end he makes one or two more plays.
Yeah.
You guys have any other thoughts about the ACC this year?
I think I'm good, man. I am excited. Thanks for having us on tonight. Talk about some ACC football.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. I'm so grateful as well to be going to Virginia with you guys. It's gonna be a ton of fun to watch that game. Super excited.
Can't wait.
Well, that's all we had for today's episode. Thank you guys again for coming on, and you guys take it easy. We'll see you in a couple of days. Football starts in 2 days. Really excited. You guys have a good night.
Take care.
Thanks so
for
much.
joining us.
Have a great one.